before I worked here, I was in the Air Force for 20 years. So I'm from this area, but then I left for 20 years, and then when I retired, I moved back here. My realtor's actually here. She sold me the house that I live in. Our lovely assistant on the camera is my cousin Nicole. She also works at the nursery. So me and Nicole are trying to take over from the Sperbecks, push them out. I'm just kidding. No, I always joke with Mike that I'm going to buy the place. So our current sale for the month is 20% off of any one item. So if you guys feel like shopping for the rest of this month, you get 20% off of one thing. You can use that coupon in addition or for whatever you want. And also Mrs. Sperbeck told me to tell you also for coming in today, if you buy anything rose related, gloves, roses, pruning shears, fertilizers, or any of that, in addition to the 20% off the first item, you can have 10% off of anything else rose related today for attending. So I think that's it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to go over with you guys is like the most common tools and stuff for pruning. The most important thing you need is a good pair of gloves. I don't have any good pair of gloves.
You said you need it, right?
Yeah.
20%
These gloves that we sell here are not good for rose pruning because the thorns are just going to go right through them. Ideally, you'd like a really stiff pair of leather gloves, and preferably
like
the kind
gloves?
that come up the arm.
Welding gloves.
Yeah. Yeah. So we normally do carry the ones that come up higher, but we're out. So I won't be using any gloves today, but you really want to wear gloves because the rose is going to get you even when you're careful. The next most important tool you're going to need is a pair of pruning shears. This is what you're going to do most of your cutting with. Sometimes when you get down at the base of the cane, there'll be places that you just can't get right with these, or it might be too big and these won't cut it. In that case, you want to use loppers like this. But what they recommend for roses, these pruners and these loppers are called bypass, meaning both blades go past each other instead of meeting tip to tip like this. So pruners that meet tip to tip, they can crush the cane instead of cutting it sharply. So you want bypass pruners. They just do a better cut. Another tool that's possible to use if sometimes you can't get those big things down in there, they sell like little folding saws, and these are really good for getting down in something close and cutting something thick that you can't reach with all this other stuff. So pruning shears, loppers, and a saw, you should be able to get everything you need to get in the rose with those. So that's it for the tools. So I'm just going to go over how we do the pruning on a few of the hybrid tea roses here, and then I'll show you the tree roses. And then I'll talk about fertilizers and pesticides and that kind of stuff in general rose care. So the first thing that you want to do when you're pruning roses is you remove any dead or diseased wood. And you can see that like this thing sticking up here in the middle is brown. So that's dead. It's never going to do anything. So you just get that out of there the first thing. So by removing all the dead wood, it's helping you get a better picture of what the actual shape of the rose bush is going to end up being like. So we go through and get those first. Sometimes you'll find little dead nubs at the top of branches. You can bring those down too. See how it's all dry and cracking? So dead, diseased, or dying branches, those come off first. After you get all the dead wood out, the next thing you want to get out is crossing branches. You don't want any branches in there that are crossing. Your goal for pruning roses, whether it's the shrub or the tree, is to end up with like an open base shape so that airflow and circulation can get in there. Because when they get crisscrossed in the middle and super bushy, that just helps breed all of the diseases that is common to them. So you want to get like, we usually take all the center branching out, or anything like I said that's crossing over another one. So like on this one here, you can see that the branches are crossing, eventually they could start rubbing each other, which will damage the cane, and then it'll end up getting diseased or dying anyway. So it's best just to get them out of the way. So you would want to pick, do you want to leave the one that's coming out here or the one that's coming here? Since this one's coming through the middle, even though it's bigger, I would probably take this one off completely. And I would probably take off that whole nub that it's on right there. So I'm, like I said, I'm preventing the crisscrossing of branching and opening up the middle. So now, as you can see, it's opened up in the center and none of the branches are crossing or touching each other. The next thing that you do after that, so you've removed all the dead wood, all the diseased wood, the dying wood, and the crisscrossing branches. Then you want to, that's when you're going to decide what height you want to bring the rose bush down to. If you see the chart on the handout that I sent you, or that I gave you, it tells you when to do a hard pruning close to the ground, moderate pruning, and light pruning. And it tells you if you do light pruning, like if you just come to your rose bush and clip off the tips like that, it says it's not recommended because you're going to end up with a tall spindly plant later. So don't just do like light tip pruning when you're doing the dormant pruning in the winter. Either take it back to a hard pruning if it's a brand new planting or an old bush that's just out of control that you want to rejuvenate, then you'll chop it back down to here. Normally we say most of our shrubs we leave about 12-inch canes coming up, or about, if you're looking at your bush in your ground, most people recommend bringing it down half of the height that it currently is. So ultimately it's up to you. You know what shape and size you want your bush to be when it branches back out. So you can bring it down a little bit, or halfway, or all the way, but you're going to get different results based on what you do.
So I have one that's like crazy overgrown and it's got a million different blooms and they're different colors. And then I have the same exact bush, but it grows leaves, but not flowers.
And they're all watered the same and fertilized the same and treated the same?
Yeah.
It most likely has to do with the pruning then. Have they been pruned at all?
No.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So, of course you don't have to prune your roses. I mean, in the wild, nobody prunes them. But if you want to get an ideal shape and you want to get maximum flowers, that's why we prune.
Okay.
So roses like being pruned. And if you give it that cut back halfway down and clean out the opening of the center and then fertilize it starting in the spring when the new growth comes, you should get proper blooming on it.
Okay.
This fertilizer that we carry, the rose and flower food, they recommend using this every single month during the growing season, which is like from March to November here.
Okay.
So you can actually keep flowers on your rose bush if you fertilize it every month and deadhead it almost the whole year. Ours are usually, there's a couple blooming now, I think, or there were. Yeah.
Mine's
So,
been going nuts.
yeah.
So you wouldn't cut that little tiny guy in the middle?
This one? It's
Right in the middle.
this one?
Yeah.
You can. So it's not I mean, I don't want to say it's not an exact science, but it's also some of it's personal preference. If you know that later for the overall shape of your bush, you're going to like that one, you can just leave it and see what it does, and if it doesn't do what you want it to do, remove it next winter.
What about like those little sprigs that have like,
Which,
well, actually that.
it's got buds.
Yeah.
So this is new growth, and that's what I was saying, like, do you need another cane coming this way? You've got a main one coming out this way. What is that going to do for the overall look of your bush in the end? So I don't think that's going to be beneficial myself because we've already got growth on this side. So yeah, I would take that out. Plus it's coming up in the middle anyway, so eventually you'll probably remove it.
You should see what I do. You're ruthless.
Some people recommend an easy way to do the height. If this was in the ground, they say you bring them down to your kneecap. So that's one way to think about it if you want to get the right height on the bushes. It's your knee when they're in the ground. This one wouldn't even be tall enough to get any cutting done. But so then when you're ready to bring it down to the height you want it, that's when it comes in with the you want to cut it with sharp pruners, with the bypass pruners, like I said. You want to cut it at an angle. That way, if it rains, the water rolls off the cut instead of sitting on top and soaking in. So you always cut it at an angle like this so that it's not sitting flat with the wound. And then, remember I told you you don't want any branches growing in the middle or crisscrossing. Where you cut it determines which way the branches are going to grow. So you always look for the leaf node. You'll usually see, like there's one right here. See this little lump coming out? If I cut this 1/4 of an inch above it at an angle, the new branch is going to grow out this way. If you cut it off at a nub that's pointing in, your new branch is going to come in and you don't want it there. So that's why we look for which way the nub is growing, because that's which way you want your branch to go. So we do pretty hard pruning here. Like most of the time we'll take all of these little branches off, just leave the main cane here. All of this will come off, you don't have to. We also, in a colder climate, roses will go completely dormant on their own in the winter. They'll drop all their leaves, they'll sit in the yard bare all winter, and then in the spring they'll re-bloom. Our climate here is so mild that they go what we call semi-dormant. So they start changing colors, they start losing some leaves, some of them may lose all, some of them may not. So what we do to help force them into a dormancy is we pull every leaf off. So we just go through and we start taking them all off. We leave every single rose bush in here completely bare over the winter. It's not a necessary requirement. You can leave the leaves that are on there on, but it just helps it force it into a deep sleep for the rest of the winter before it puts on its new growth in the spring. I normally cut the branches first down to the height I want, so I don't have to pick off leaves that I would be cutting off anyway. So, let's see. I'm going to bring it down. This is about halfway down. There's a nub sticking out that way, so I'm going to do the 45-degree cut, 1/4 of an inch above the nub, just like that. And then I want to keep a consistent height all the way around. So you're just going to come to the next branch, find a nub that's closest in height to the one you already cut, and then keep doing that angle. This guy, I would probably take out 2 actually. Going towards the middle. There is a nub. And that's another thing. If you don't see a nub, just cut it around that height. Anything that you need to correct, you can correct later. You can do minor pruning year-round. So, say you don't find a nub, you're not sure where it's going to grow. Just cut it anywhere at the same height, and then if it starts growing a branch in later, just cut it off.
You said cut it at the same angle?
The same angle and the same height. You want to try to maintain this height all the way around.
Why the same angle? Is there a reason for it?
The angle of the cut is to keep water from sitting on the open wound.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if you just cut it straight across, you're making a table for water droplets to sit and hang out, which can, 9 times out of 10, it isn't going to do anything. It'll be fine. The rose is going to seal itself and it's going to be happy and healthy. But there is a possibility that you're opening it up to get fungus or things like that. The moisture and shade is what causes all the fungus on roses. So just as like a caution, cut it at an angle so the water rolls off. But like you see in the paper, don't cut it at such a sharp angle like the last one that the wound is so large. So you want to minimize the opening, but still have an angle.
I was told that there was something to the 5 leaves. Have the 5 leaves.
That's when you're deadheading. So throughout the rest of the year, when you want to upkeep and keep the blooms coming, then once the rose starts fading and you're ready to cut it off, yes, you go down to the first leaf after the flower with 5 leaves on it. Some of them don't have 5 leaves, so then you can cut it off at the 3-leaf or anywhere you want. But as a general rule, the 5-leaf one is where you deadhead to.
You still cut it at an angle.
Yes, you always want it. You always want the angle, because even when you water in the summer, even though it's not raining, you could get water on it. Now that I'm getting this off, I'm seeing some more dead wood, so I can cut that off.
How do you know when they're sharpened?
pruners? Well, yeah. When you start making a cut, that looks messy, it'll look like you squished it, or it'll look like you're pinching it, or some of the fibers will rip when you're trying to get it off. It won't be a clean, nice cut.
So how do you sharpen it?
So I have never sharpened these. Our manager sharpens them for us. She has her little stone and rubs the edges to clean them up and sharpen
So
them.
I should just stop by with my...
Yeah, we can help you. See, the closest bud on this one is up here. So, actually, it's all personal preference. So when you're deciding, you can't hurt it. There's no wrong thing. If you're like, should I take that off or not? You know what? That rose is going to come back with a vengeance in the spring anyway. You can't kill it. You can't hurt it. You can't mess up. If you don't like this one sticking up here, cut it off.
Oh, cutthroat. I love it. Sorry, that's just awesome. Sniff, that's what I want to go do to mine right now.
See how that ripped down? That's what would happen if you had dull pruning shears.
There's another on this side of it. Looks like there's a couple of chairs here.
I'm going to pull 2 more chairs. And here's a $2 off coupon. You can use that for anything you want. For anybody that missed it also, for anybody who came late, you can use this $2 coupon on anything you want for the rest of the year whenever you want. This month, the nursery's having a 20% off of any one item sale, and anybody who attends the seminar today, you'll get an additional 10% off of any rose-related items if you buy them today. So you can plant the roses now. You can plant them in the powdery mildew, black spot, rust, and that stuff can stay on the leaf, and when it falls and hangs out under the rose bush, it can get back on the rose bush in the spring after it leaves out. So you want to rake up underneath your roses and get all that debris out of there. One of the things I read on here recommend that after you do the pruning, you spray it with a fungicide. That's just an extra precaution because you just opened it up to kind of make sure while you've got it in this state that there's no fungus on it. So you could use neem oil as a fungicide or anything designed as a fungicide. This one's not neem oil, or it's got neem oil in it. It's a year-round oil spray. But anything that says fungicide, you can spray your bush with now if you want. It'll help protect the wounds. It'll help kill any leftover fungus that are on it.
Just kind of give it a
Yep.
real quick.
And then this guy is done. He's ready to be set aside for the winter.
How long does it take for them to get root bound when you do put them in the ground?
So they don't get root bound in the ground, they get root bound in pots. Root bound means the roots have grown so much that there's no room for it left in here.
Not root bound, established.
Okay. Usually everything that you plant takes 1 full growing season to get established, to be considered established. So if you plant it in the spring, by next spring it's considered established. And once established, roses are considered drought tolerant. So they won't need much water after you get them established. So once they get a good root system in the ground, you can really cut back on the watering.
Cut back how much?
You got to kind of play it by ear. If it's 108 and really windy and the leaves are starting to look wilty, it needs water. Yeah. I would say they don't need much water from you over the winter, but that is a misconception. If something's dormant, even deciduous trees, when they lose their leaves, they still need water in the winter. So if there's no rain, you need to water your stuff. But I would say maybe once every couple of weeks. You know, it depends. If it's cool and it's not windy and the ground looks damp, they're good. In the summer, though, or in high winds, you can water them a couple times a week, possibly.
You can use a water meter.
Yeah, you can.
I have 2 rows of
Pruning down. All they did was take one of these and mount it to the top of a cane. Yeah.
What's the cane?
I don't know where they get the. I'm sure it's
Is
a
it a
rose.
rose?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a rose, but I don't know what kind or how they grow these.
Well, clearly they cut off, you can see all the little nubbins where they cut off any volunteer branches
Yeah.
and stopped it from growing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll put it in there. Are we allowed to video you on this?
Yeah.
Well, because I'll forget.
Well, my cousin is filming too. She's gonna put this on our YouTube page.
Oh, we have a YouTube page.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll have to follow that then. Never mind. I won't film it. Sorry.
I'm a little camera shy.
Are you? You're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you. Yeah, that one's facing in. So if I cut it here, that branch is gonna
It's
grow.
going to go in.
Yeah.
So are you going to cut below
Oh, here's
it?
one right there.
So then with that note there, you're saying it's going to grow this way? So then next year you're going to have to cut that off because it's going to grow towards
Well,
the middle.
if you don't cut it above this, that might just turn into a leaf.
Oh.
And once you cut it, it's going to send a branch out of the next node down. A branch. It could turn into a branch. They can become either a leaf or a branch.
But you don't want to cut that off during its growing season or during the summer or anything. You wait till the next season of pruning and then cut it off?
It's up to you. So you can do minor pruning year round. You can do your deadheading. If you see a branch crossing in the middle that you're like, he doesn't need to be there, cut it off. But when you force it into dormancy and bring the height down,
Right.
that's in January.
Right.
Everything else, you want to do crisscrossing or dead wood in the summer, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just don't bring the height down of the branches.
Right.
So this guy here looks pretty good. He's opened up in the middle. I'm going to take off all the dead leaves underneath it. If you want to spray it with fungicide now, go ahead, but this is a ready for winter prune rose bush. On the tree rose, the same exact concept is you want it to look like a vase or a bowl. So when I'm done, you want all the branching to look like this. Open in the center with branches coming around the outside.
So you don't want anything in the middle with the rose trees either?
No. It's all about airflow. When they get dense and crisscrossing branches and they're a gnarled mess, it's just breeding diseases in there. Fungus and mites and bugs. You just want to let them breathe. You want to open them up and let the air circulate through them. So it's the exact same order. I'm going to look for any dead wood, and here's a dead nub here in the middle. So that's going to be the first thing to come off. You want to try to cut it at an angle, but that was dead. My coworker told me, I don't know if this is true. You were asking about the sucker, and you're not getting anything out of the top.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true, but I was told, say you got something that's got a lot of branching on one side and not much on the other, or no growth. She said if you take something sharp and poke a hole in the graft and just make a little hole down there, eventually it's going to shoot a branch out that way. So if you've got a bald side, you can encourage it to send a branch that way by poking a hole in it.
Huh.
Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Okay, so I took off the dead wood. Here's a branch growing right towards the center, so that one's gone. Bye. I don't like the ones that come up from the bottom underneath the graft, because they look funny to me, and I don't know if suckers can grow from up under here on the bottom of the graft. So I'm going to take that one off too. It's crisscrossing out here anyway. Same thing on the tree roses. I would bring them down to about 12 inches. That's personal preference. Again, if you want them to get taller, then same thing's going to happen. Though, if you prune them just a little bit on the top, you're going to get that, whatever the chart says, the spindly, or
12 inches from the
here. So about so that each branch looks about a foot. Yeah. Approximate.
Yeah. Yeah, this is giving me
Yeah.
anxiety.
Just with me one day. One day. I just go to each of my bushes.
I mean, I'm thinking that's a thick one. Like, now it's just gonna lose all of it.
Yeah, but it's gonna bloom back in spring too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hibernation.
you're setting up amazing flowers for next year by doing that. So it's gonna look sad and dormant and naked and all that stuff, but in the long run, it's gonna be better for your.
Spring growth. Cutting out for rebirth. I like it.
Burning a lot.
Maybe you can take off this one.
I like it.
See all these little guys? If the branch is about the size of a pencil, a little bit smaller than a pencil, that's 1-year-old growth. When it starts to get thicker like this is 2 to 5 years or 2 to 3 years. And then when you get the big fat ones, they're like 5, 10 years old. And when they start getting too big, you really want to saw off that whole cane. And then you're going to let a 2 or 3-year-old one take over for it. So I didn't mention that earlier, but if the cane gets too big, you want to cut that whole thing off too. And that's what these are good for. Getting down in there and cutting off the old fat canes and letting the juveniles take over for it.
I'm gonna get rid of the canes.
Get rid of the old ones.
Yeah.
I get it. But I get it.
So with the branching that this one had, that's as close to a bowl as I could get.
Okay.
And I am a little shorter than a foot on some of these, and it's not going to hurt it.
And because that's this, excuse me, this part here, because it's still green, that's why you're leaving that?
I'm leaving that because this branch is attached to it.
Oh. I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I see.
If there was nothing growing on it, yeah, you can lop that whole nub off. It won't hurt it. So also, just so you guys know, if you ever have any questions or you forget, you're always welcome to come to the nursery or call the nursery, and any of us can help you with a one-on-one rose pruning class or any kind of class you want at any time. We're all here and we're all available for anything. So if you get home and you're like, what did he say? You can call the nursery and say, hey, I'm about to prune my rose, what should I, and we'll help you, or come in or bring your rose in and we'll walk you through it if it's not in the ground. We're always here. You don't have to wait till January to find out how to do it.
Or like we could take a picture of it and say, look, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yes.
What do you suggest?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Unless anybody has any other questions about pruning, I'm going to talk about the fungicides and fertilizers really quick, and then if you have any other questions. So I already told you in the winter you can spray it with a fungicide just to kind of, we've got all the leaves off of it, we've got all of the dead leaves out from underneath it. Do a quick spray with a fungicide just to kind of protect it for the rest of the winter, help it get off to the best start it can. We don't fertilize anything when they're dormant, so I will not give these any fertilizer right now. You want to give it its first fertilizer when you see the new growth in the spring. So, and not just a few buds trying to push out. When it starts leafing out, it's okay to start fertilizing it then. There's several choices you have for fertilizer. You can use a granular, you can use a liquid. Granular lasts longer because it breaks down as it's watered, so it gets a little bit every time you water. Liquid is faster, it gets right to the plant, but you have to use it more often because it washes away. There's also systemics. Systemics are products that you water into the ground and then the plant pulls it up inside. So we have systemics that are fertilizers, we have systemics that are fertilizers, fungicides, miticides, insecticides. This is a 2-in-1, this is a 3-in-1. So this is rose systemic, the fertilizer, insect control, and disease control. This stuff is amazing. You mix it with water it in, you're not going to get an aphid, you're not going to get black powdery mildew, you're not going to get rust, you're not going to get anything. It only lasts, though, for I think 6 weeks.
So you do that every 6 weeks.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah, every 6 weeks.
Is that liquid? 'Cause mine
This
is
is liquid.
granular.
This is
They
liquid.
look like little samples.
We don't have, I don't think we have any granular systemic here.
That would be fine.
It's fine, yeah, any systemic. We also use the rose and flower care on small shrubs too. So crepe myrtles, they get that aphid really bad.
They do.
Which crepe myrtles,
They're
yeah.
sweet.
And then the aphids secrete the honeydew that drips all over the ground and makes it sticky. You put this on there, and the aphids are gone in 3 days.
Huh.
Yeah.
So how do you apply that? Then just like a spray bottle, or
No, you mix it with water in a bucket and pour it at the base of the plant.
so you don't apply it to leaves or anything?
No, the roots pull it up inside and protect it from the inside.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
You can do that in the middle of the night to your neighbor's plants.
Yeah, yeah.
Aphids don't come to your-
So we recommend, this is the starter fertilizer. It's not necessarily for roses, it's for anything. So if you're going to plant a tree or a shrub or perennials or annuals, this stuff really gets it going. So if you buy a rose and then you put it in the ground, you don't need to use the rose and flower food when you plant it, you use the starter fertilizer. But then after that, you're going to use stuff designed for roses. This is what it's going to encourage your blossom. So deadheading and fertilizing regularly are going to give you the most flowers. And we carry several kinds of, this is a powder, this one is a powder, granular. I think we have rose spikes for roses where you just stick it in the
So how
ground.
does the granular work? You just sprinkle it on top?
Yeah, you sprinkle it around the top. You don't really have to work it in the ground if you don't want to. You can just put it on top. I usually work it into the ground a little bit. That way, if you have like where when you water or it rains, if stuff like flows past it, you don't want it to get carried away.
Okay.
So if you work it into the ground, it'll keep it there. But if you have like a, like a circle around
I was
it,
gonna ask, cause my grandma, like all her plants, even tomatoes, like she kind of did like a little circle,
Mound.
like moat, I guess
Yeah.
you'd call it, around it.
So I usually recommend if you're going to do the moat thing, you tear the moat down in the winter
Okay.
because it can cause it to hold too much water. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't use I don't make rings around any of my plants. I don't like it.
Okay.
I just usually use the hose and do a slow trickle and let it soak down deep in.
Okay. And then how often do you have to do that with the granule? Like,
So this one recommends monthly. It depends on the product. Some say fertilize spring, summer, and fall, so 3 times a year. I don't know if this one wants to sell more products, so they recommend once a month. I don't know, but right on the back it says feed every 4 to 6 weeks during growing season.
okay.
So
And you're saying that's March to November.
here, yes.
So I have a drip system. The granular, if it's just dripping in one little spot,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
not
gonna
gonna- no.
dissolve the granules. So just go back over it with a.
Hose. Yeah, water it in with the hose. And,
Problem is I have like so many roses, it took me forever.
yeah, eventually I would water it with the hose regularly, and then eventually, like the rainwater's gonna in the winter, it's gonna get it down in the ground. But yeah, that's tricky. If you're just watering with the drip, you're right. You're not gonna get the saturation probably that you need to break down the granules. But you could always use the liquid fertilizer, water that in.
Just run it through the drip system, or
Some people do that. There is a way to do that. But if not, mix up your fertilizer in a bucket, slowly pour it around your plant, let it soak in, and then let the drip system take care of it from there. And then roses really like alfalfa for some reason. I've heard of people taking alfalfa bales of hay and spreading it around in the spring underneath the roses, and then as it breaks down, they get the stuff that they love. There's an article in the handout I gave you about alfalfa, I think on the second page. We sell alfalfa meal, but you can buy hay and let it break down naturally around your rose. They love it. And another thing they love, magnesium sulfate, which is commonly called Epsom salt.
I use Epsom salt.
Yeah, what Epsom salt does is that it adds, the magnesium sulfate allows plants to absorb nutrients that they sometimes can't pick up on their own with their roots. If you have poor soil or whatever, adding a little bit of Epsom salt to stuff, you're helping the plant get more nutrients. That's what this does. It doesn't necessarily give it nutrients, it helps it get the other nutrients out of the soil.
Now, how often should you do the Epsom salt?
Well, I think just in the spring,
Oh,
one time.
one time.
Yeah, and don't overdo it.
Is that just for roses or like?
No, I use it on tomatoes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
More tomatoes.
Did you say how much?
So this says use twice a year, spring and summer. This one says just for roses, 3/4 of a cup in spring and 1/2 of a cup in summer. That's what they recommend.
That
But-
box would last you.
Yeah.
forever.
You can also buy it at Walmart and
That's
in
what
their
I buy.
website. Yeah.
I buy the big old
Stuff you put
box
in your
of it.
bathtub.
If you're using the alfalfa hay,
Uh-huh.
do you have to be careful about not mounding around the?
Yes, you don't want to ever put anything up against the trunk of any plant, really. Even when you mulch or anything like that, you want to leave space away from that because you don't want to cover up the crown where it meets the soil here. You can drown it.
What is the alfalfa again for? Again, sorry.
It's for
Oh, to pull the nutrients.
no, that's the Epsom
Oh,
salt.
that's good.
It says
Keep going.
alfalfa meal is good for roses. It provides a good source of nitrogen, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, and all those vitamins.
They really like
So it sounds like they can get almost everything they need just from alfalfa. It's kind of like, you know, it breaks down. It's like a compost eventually. It's just going to get all those. It's going to get all the nutrients out of the alfalfa when it breaks down. And then for the pests, like I said, the most common pests on roses are aphids. I have seen scale on them, and then the funguses are powdery mildew, black spot, rust. Rust looks like a gold-colored little powder on it. You can prevent most of that, like I said, by not getting the leaves wet and having them in full sun. But if you don't want to use the systemic, which will prevent all of that on its own, you can use neem oil, but don't use neem oil in the summer when it's over 90 degrees. It'll dry the plant. So neem oil is only for cool weather. This one's called year-round oil spray. So what oils do is they suffocate bugs and funguses. That's how they work. So they coat the plant and then it dies off. Normally, if you've got those diseases all over, you spray it. The leaves that were gross are not going to come back and be shiny green. You just want to get the disease under control and then pick those off, and you'll get new growth. So if you've seen that, like if you look at our roses, the ones with yellow or brown spots or all that, just pull those off and after you spray, because they're not going to come back. You just want to get the disease under control and stop it from spreading to the other leaves.
So if it is during the summer when it is hot, and you spray it with the one that you just had in your hand.
That one's supposed to be safe for summer.
But should you still do it in like the evening when it's not so screaming hot, like after the
Well,
sun
with
goes
the oil's going to still be on the leaf in the next day when it's hot anyway. So
Oh,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Other than that, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Is that safe to use it if you use the ladybugs as well?
The neem oil? No. Well, it's safe if the ladybugs aren't on it when you spray. If they are on it when you spray, you're going to get the ladybugs too. So that's the downside too, because ladybugs are beneficial insects, but the pesticides don't know that. So you gotta.
Are the ladybugs official?
They are. They have a ravenous appetite, and they will consume everything on that plant before they fly to another one. Usually, we sell them here spring to fall, and then they'll eat whatever you have, and then they'll probably leave. But what they normally do is lay their eggs before they leave your yard, and you'll get next year's babies. So a lot of people say like, "Oh, mine already all left. I don't have any more in my yard," and then they are surprised to find out the next year, without trying, they have ladybugs again.
I wonder what they ate. Were they like those little
I think they look like little dots. The ladybug eggs. Oh, you're talking about aphids?
No, the ladybug.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their eggs look like, but I think they're little clusters of dots.
Okay. We were finding on our oak tree leaves and on the cedar deodora and what have you, there was like these little green, like little Hershey Kiss type things all over, everywhere. I didn't know if they were butterfly or
Yeah,
ladybug.
so they're probably eggs, but they could be any insect, I don't know. I think ladybug eggs are round and in little clusters. Any other questions?
Aphids on elm trees?
On what?
For elm trees?
The best way to get the aphids on the elm tree is we have another systemic that's made for trees that you water into the base.
Is that the neem oil? Is that the right
You can
now?
use the neem oil, but it depends on how big your tree is. How are you going to get, if you've got a 30-foot
It's
elm,
huge.
yeah, you have probably no way of spraying down that whole tree.
Right.
So the best thing to do is hire somebody with the crane to come in and spray your tree, or use a systemic that you water into the roots. The amount that you use is based on the diameter of the trunk.
Right.
So it'll tell you on the package how much you need to water in,
You
and then
have
when
that?
we do have it,
Okay,
yes.
good.
But some of them aren't. Some of them are. The tree one might just say disease. It might not say insect. So you might have to use the double up on the. Sometimes we carry one called tree and shrub. There's products for it that you water in. That's what you're gonna have to find. I have one for trees, but I don't think it does insects. It might. We can go look after this.
On my black eyed Susans, this is away from you. I get that white powdery. Which one would I use?
You can use neem oil, or you can use anything that says fungicide.
And spray it before those appear, that powdery stuff, or wait till it appears?
I don't usually myself try to pre-treat stuff. I try to let it be and then attack problems as I find them. But you're more than welcome to. If you want to spray it down before it appears as a precaution, you can. I just don't like spraying just to spray. Neem oil suffocates. So neem oil will do mites, fungicide. It's a fungicide, miticide, and insecticide. It'll kill them all. It just smothers them all.
So, and that's kind of your point. You can't spray that before because you're not suffocating anything.
Correct.
If they're not there, you're not.
Right, but a one that says fungicide that has like an active ingredient that kills fungus, that one you might be able to spray ahead of time. But I don't pre-treat anything. I don't want to use a chemical if I don't have to. Although neem oil is made from the neem tree and it's natural, the other stuff I don't just use haphazardly.
Is the neem oil dissolved when you water your plant?
Yes, it will eventually wash off. Yes.
So you let it sit for a couple days and pull it out?
Yeah. So it should suffocate everything within a day or two. Yes, and then if it washes up after that, it's fine.
Oh, I see.
Anything else?
No, yeah. Put an umbrella over it.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming in.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Like I said, if you ever have any other questions, you can call us, or any of us can help you at any time. You don't have to wait for a seminar.